So welcome guys to the podcast YouTube series, not yet named series. And today I'm interviewing Reece, aka EV Pro. Reece is the master when it comes to music videos, nightclub videos, and his video was actually the reason that I went self-employed. So hopefully you enjoy this episode and many more to come. So Reece, welcome to the yet to be named podcast YouTube series. Don't know what this is going to be just yet, but welcome along. So if you wouldn't mind just giving people a brief intro about who you are and what you do, that'd be amazing.
Firstly, thank you, Robert, like getting me on the soon to be named. Who knows what it's going to be? Show or podcast. My name is Reece. I am 27 years old. I had to think then. That's not good. 27 years old. I'm a, I guess, content creator, videographer, photographer. But over the last couple of years, I've moved sort of more into digital strategy and, in general, taking ideas and creating a visual for them, whether that's digital photography. And I'm sort of like dabbled in other fields, but mainly it all comes within the bubble that is content creation.
Nice. And the reason I wanted to get you on here, obviously very knowledgeable and very talented, but mainly as a thank you, weirdly, because one of your videos, which was when should you go full time, was actually one of the catalysts for me to go full time. And
that was filmed a while ago as well. That was back when I was like living at my mum's.
So yeah, and it was just like, you know, when it's like, it's not something necessarily new, but it's just someone different says it and it just clicks. And I remember you just saying like, go with your gut. And I was just thinking, you know, I fucking hate my job. Like I just need to get out and I need to do this. And that's what kind of made me lay a plan down for going self-employed and kind of giving this thing a go, really. So is that something that you've always done in kind of like your business, is just follow your gut?
Yeah, I would say so. It was something I picked up. I'm trying to think now what it must have been. So I've always had an interest in videos. So even when I was in school in like year 10, 11, I like started making YouTube videos, or even year 9, I think. I remember I was playing with like dad's old JVC camera, like tape deck, and they had a bigger Sony one. We'd use that sometimes. And I think it originally stemmed from where dad used to always record like me and my brother opening all the presents at Christmas. It was just like every year. And I think gradually that it must have engraved in me somehow, like this love for film, because gradually of each Christmas I'd like start playing with the camera more, and you know, times led on. Eventually, you know, my dad got me a camera when we went on holiday one time, and that's when it really, I guess, I started making YouTube videos, which are no longer online because I was so embarrassed by them. And they're on some like random, like weird name account. But I'd make like this is back in the days, like Sony Vegas, like torrenting the software, you know, just making like cool videos. And I think the problem, I think I had like real, not just growth within business, but personal growth between sort of the years of maybe like 18 to like 22. I'd say sort of like that 4-year gap was a period in which I just started to say, you know, like, screw it, I'm just going to go for it. So yeah, I guess following your gut. And I think listening more, like that's when I started to listen to a lot of like podcasts, and I started listening to like a lot of Gary V's content as well, especially when I was just starting out going self-employed. But this was like, I was already self-employed when I was listening to his sort of like his content. Before that, it was just, I don't know, like I'd realized I could, because when I first started, where I'm from, like Southend in Essex, I only knew of 2 videographers or photographers that were doing it full time. And I just always thought it's a rarity, like it's never really going to happen. Like I didn't even know you could do it as a full time as my job. So when all of a sudden, you know, I did seasons abroad. If anyone who knows my story, I did seasons abroad, and then off the back of that, I built friends and a clientele, which, you know, very fortunately stretched like most, you know, all different parts of the UK. So when I was going to do jobs, you expanding my network and so on. And that was sort of, it just felt right. I think it was, you know, I've been through a lot of 9 to 5 jobs, like a lot.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I think I came to sort of realize. I mean, the last job I had was working at JD Sports, and I generally liked that job, but I was still really, I was really hustling on the side of my video work. I was doing jobs. I'd go on tour. I had two DJs. They were called Dre Cavids, and yeah, flip on the name as who you'd think it on, Craig David. And yeah, I'd go, like, they'd pay me like 50 quid, and they were like doing DJing gigs like an hour away. I'd drive them down. We'd make like a little tour vlog out of it. And even at JD, I weren't on a lot of money. I was on maybe 150, 180 quid a week. But I think that's when I was realizing, right, the dots were starting to connect a little bit more. So I was just like, you just got to go to it. And then once I realized, like, the job at JD just sort of happened. It was through a friend of a friend. And I think that's when I realized that, I chose to leave there. It was probably the first job I wasn't fired or sacked from, to be honest. Because the problem was, I was great for like interviews. I can smash. Like, first a week of work, I'll smash it, brilliant. But after that was always the thought of, well, I don't want to work here for the rest of my life, so why should I bother putting effort in? I've never been made for that, and there's nothing wrong with it. There are people who get up, go to work, smash it, and they love their job, or, they just see it as a means to, pay for their life. But for me, it was always like, well, no, I'm not going to do something if I'm not happy doing it. Like I've actually said it the other week again to my housemates. Fortunately, there's a lot of work coming in again now, but there's a lot of jobs I don't really want to be doing. But I took them on. You take them on through COVID because obviously everyone, we all, we were taking what we could grab through COVID. It wasn't a thing, but now it's like where positions are getting a bit better. It's like, well, do you know what? I'd rather earn less money. And I said this when I worked at JD. Like, I'd rather earn less money and just be happier, because I've done the jobs that pay great, but if you're not enjoying it, then what is the point? Like, what?
Yeah,
that's how I see it in my eyes. So I've sort of gone on a tangent there from the gut instincts, but
no,
yeah, I think deep down, I've always, if something hasn't made me happy, then I'm just like, I'm looking bigger picture. I'm not going to be here in a year, so what's the point? Why should I put effort in? And some of these jobs I had, I was working for a bank, getting paid like stupid money. I think it was like £12 an hour to literally copy and paste. It was just on computer systems in a call center. I wasn't even taking calls. Like, the easiest job you can probably imagine. And I just thought, what's the point? And
that's too easy.
3 months later, I was let go. So I think it's them sort of things where it's like, I got let go from there, and it was all these bits, and I was like, well, I don't really want to be doing this anyway. So yeah, I think always just having, I don't know, it's just always been in me to just, and even in normal life, if it ain't gonna bring me happiness, I just don't want to do it. Even more now, where I don't really normally you'd try to find an excuse for not doing something. If someone's like, I'd just be quite frank. I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I don't really have much interest in that. I'm not being rude when I'm saying it. I'm just saying, look, it's not gonna make me happy. So I don't really want to. Why would I waste my time doing something that's not gonna make me happy?
That's a compliment to me, obviously, because you agreed to be on this podcast. So if you weren't interested, you would have said. So that's good to know.
But no, yeah, man, of course. Like, I love jumping on like pods like this. Like, it's interesting because I've been having the internal battle at the minute of, do I bring my podcast back and do I do this? And
100% you do.
I know, probably I'm such a perfectionist, and then I come to record and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and I don't know. It's one of them ones where I know I sort of really probably should do it, but it comes down to that whole thing of, is it going to make me happy? And I know the content will suffer if I don't want to get into it. But who knows? We'll see. The world's getting a bit back to normal, so all these external things do have an effect on you. Whether you're doing jobs, with certain bits. Who knows? We'll see.
It sounds like a similar kind of journey to me, like listening to the podcast and things like that. I was in kind of like a dead end job. Well, that's unfair to say, but I was driving to work, but I'd have a podcast on about, entrepreneurship or like fitness and stuff like that. And I think just opening your eyes to, there's so much more out there, makes you realize how you're kind of stunting your growth being in kind of like a 9-to-5 job. And like you say, there's nothing wrong with it necessarily, but I just 100% knew it wasn't for me. I just didn't have the vehicle to kind of use that information on. But you mentioned about, you know, making those connections, and that was kind of part of what gave you a bit of runway when you came back from doing the seasons. For someone that's kind of starting out, how would you recommend even starting to make those kind of connections that are going to pave the way for their kind of future success?
Yeah, cool. I think the best way is just telling people what you do. So letting people know. I think there's ways. I think I mentioned this in some of my old video. I think there's ways you can do it without sounding pushy. Like I'll meet some people sometimes, and they're very, very pushy to let me know they're a photographer or videographer, and that's great and it's good to know. But there's like what one example I always use is, let's say I met someone with a bit of status, or a famous person or celebrity or something like that. I mean, one of my traits I've picked up over the years, I don't put anyone on a pedestal. I don't care how big they are. Maybe if I bumped into like The Rock walking down the street, I'd be but it's like if The Rock come to me asking for work, it's still going to be like the same process. Obviously, it's probably the worst, not
You're
a good
just going to
example.
shrug it off.
But like what I mean is try just to like, it's weird. I mean, I think just utilizing all of like your services around you. Like there's so many Facebook groups now. Like if you live in your local area, it might be like caring about London, or, caring about Northamptonshire, or, Leeds videographers or photographers, and just starting down with initially with like your friends and family, your core, like let them know what you do. Like, because if anything, word of mouth is still one of the best marketing tools out there. So there's a couple of different routes. So I'd say you've got word of mouth. So just reaching out to like your general family, friends, just letting all of them know exactly what you do, and say to them, oh yeah, like, I do my video work. Like if you ever need any bits, like just give me a shout, and leave it at that. Don't be, pushy. Just like, oh look, if you need anything, like let me know. And then sort of you can then lead that into another thing, which is cold approaching people. Now, a good way to do that is everyone, no matter where you live, even if you live in like central London, if you just picked all the businesses within like a 1 mile radius of you, and you can look up, most businesses nowadays have social media content, or like Instagrams, Facebooks. Go on their pages and see what they're doing, and if they're not putting out what you would see as like good video content, good photography content, try and judge, okay, do they already have someone they use? Okay, they're not using anyone, they're just using their iPhones. Go into them, go in, maybe buy like 1 or 2 coffees so they sort of get to know your face a little bit, and then just maybe say, oh look, I was wondering, like, have you guys ever thought about, having a photographer come in and do some bits? Look, I'm starting out, I'm more than happy. And there's 2 ways you could do it. You could either charge them quite cheap, like £100 for your time, or you can be like, look, I'm willing to offer. I tell you what, there's a sentence I've got, which my housemate said, and it sums it up perfectly. I've got it saved in my notes to use if I ever do it in like with clients in the future. And it is such a good line. And it's keeping it very corporate and business and professional, but basically saying, look, I'll do the first one for free or discounted in order that we can then have a discussion about future work in a paid manner. He's using it in like an event space. So in terms of like shooting nightlife events and festivals, this is what he goes. So guys, I'll shoot an event at no cost in the interest of developing a working relationship with yourself.
Nice.
So that is essentially saying, I'll do something for cheap or for free. And you can spin that however you want. So you could spin that and say, I'll shoot at an event at 50% cost in the interest of developing a working relationship. I'll work to X amount. Like you can spin that however way you want. But the part in saying, in order to develop a working relationship with yourself, is essentially saying, hey, look, I'm going to do a video for free or for cheap to show you what I can do. And then after that, you can then see the value that I can give you and to provide you to your business. Then after that, we can talk business and talk money and, how much.
Yeah.
By doing that, I mean, I've done lots of videos in the past, for free or for nothing. I mean, a great example, I don't think I can name the person, but I did for someone who's quite high profile. It was their birthday party. I did their birthday party video for free. I actually paid. I was in Greece at the time, and I paid to come back to shoot the video. Did it, delivered it, and all that. 2 days later, and there's lots of influential people there. There's music stars, all this. 2 days later, I get a phone call. Hey, Reece, it's blah, blah, blah here from XYZ. Need you, just wondering if you can come out to Ibiza and shoot something of one of my villas. And I've got some content I want to make while you're out here. Let me know the price. Cool. So I just priced it as normal. So I said, oh, like, how did you find out about me? Because it come out of the blue. So I didn't meet him at the party. And so I've said to him, like, how did you find out about my stuff? He's, oh, I met you at Yan. Screw it. Oh God, right. I'll say Yanamizes. So yeah, it was at Yanamizes' birthday party. He's, oh, I met you at Yanamizes' birthday party. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, but I haven't put out any content from that yet. And he went, no, but if Yanni's using you, then I know you're good for it. Nice. And off the back of that, I probably got like 6, 7, 8 grand's worth of work. So okay. I think it's, do people, and there's still jobs now that, I haven't done something for free actually, no, a great example is, someone I'm working with at the minute, like I'm doing a lot of content for free for them and working with them sort of on a daily basis because I know in the long run, I'm going to get my payback from it. So it's sort of your personal investment, it's a lot of people do, sort of crap on, don't do work for free, don't do this, but it's a great way to get your foot in the door. Like when I wanted to get into weddings, I couldn't charge people for weddings. So I put something on Facebook saying, I will shoot 2 weddings for free. Let me know if you're getting married. And it went insane. People sharing it. Like people underestimate the power of the Facebook mums, honestly, because it's unreal. Like if you can get into your groups on Facebook and, there's so many groups and stuff like that. If you just reach out, even put something on Facebook. If you're putting it on Facebook saying you're willing to do free work, if you were to do it with businesses, the problem is then you then get 10 businesses say on it and you then pick 2 and then the other people say, okay, well, actually, I'm actually charging for this service now. You've sort of backed yourself into a corner. So if you're going to a business, I think better to do it on a one-on-one basis. You've got Instagram DM, go into the business directly, say, oh, hey, just wondering if I could speak to the manager. I just wanted to talk to them about a couple of bits. Get the manager's attention. You can speak to them, say, hey, look, just wondering if you need any photography, videography content. It might be that you ask 10 businesses and they all say no. But if you're offering it for free, more than likely they're going to be like, yeah, okay, yeah, like we'll give it a try. And you know what? You may do it for free and they may then not want you after. But guess what? You've now got something in your portfolio that you can use and you can now go and charge the next client. Just because the one you've done free work for doesn't get you back for more work, doesn't mean you've lost. If anything, you've got something you can use now in your portfolio. If anything, you're in exactly the same position because you're now just going to go and charge clients money.
But then you've got better skills from doing that video.
Exactly.
And that's exactly how I started. And I made a video on how to kind of go self-employed because I kind of wanted to give the same value that you gave to me when I first watched your video. And one of the things I said was do work for free, but never expect that person to have something for free and then pay for it afterwards. Because if they've got that value for free, it's hard, like psychologically, for them to pay for the same thing. Obviously, it can work, and obviously you said that you did, but if you expect to get nothing from it other than improving your skills and improving your portfolio, then it's just a win-win, isn't it, for everyone, really? But you mentioned you name dropped a few big names, and you mentioned that you don't get fazed by those kind of people. But I can imagine like some people, they're saying, right, I shot a video for my local farm shop and things like that, and Reece is out there shooting with people like Steve Cook, Gymshark, KSI, and all these things. And is that just connections, or is that just time under your belt, improving your skills, and then they notice you? Or, like I say, is that connections?
It's a mixture of both. It's definitely time under the belt. I think people, especially with how Instagram has become, so big now, and everyone can get work and blow up. When I was learning, especially nightlife, there wasn't really anyone teaching nightlife videos. Like that's how I started. I've been doing this, and I always have to think on it. I've been properly filming since I was 18, doing videos. I was 18 when I was hiring a camera out from my local college and going and pretending to do it for coursework and going and filming nightclub promos on the weekend. That was what I was 18. And so 9 years of filming. It wasn't really until I was 22 that I started to get good growth. And then even then it's it's always compounding. You know, I was very fortunate that, you know, I was with Nathan Dorr and Joel Corey like near the beginning of their careers, you know, and I was doing work with them, and you know, now fortunately they're
look at
they're Atlantic Golden Boys. So it's, you know, but you know, through that you then make the connection. Obviously, you know, I've filmed that bit with you know the KSI and the label, and you know, get other great opportunities, and you know, like co-direct a video for like Ella Henderson, and you know, then as you say, like even the stuff of Gymshark, the stuff through Gymshark came through Noel Mack, and you know, I Noel at the time, a lot of people probably won't know now, but you know, Noel was one of the top tier people sort of in the industry for photography and videography, and he did nightlife videos. And when I started to branch out a little bit, you know, sort of up north a bit more and Midlands, you know, Noel's name kept coming up. And you know, and fortunately, before I actually knew him on a one-on-one basis, you know, he I think he was starting to put my name out to a couple of people as that's what I was told. And you know, we built you know a really cool sort of friendship, and I guess in a way I've always sort of looked up to him a bit as a mentor. You know, he's always given me tips and advice that have been really helpful, and you know, through that then obviously that led into Gymshark. And but even that, you know, I didn't the biggest project I've done with Gymshark was filming their, you know, a lot of content for their fitness app. You know, 2-3 years before that, I was filming their London staff party when they had 70 staff on a boat in the Thames. You know, just like a little dinner, and that must have been like 2016 maybe, so nearly 5 years ago. So 2016 or 17, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, like it was still, you know. And then I did the next staff day after that, and then I did something else for them. And you know, by that time we'd done a couple of the meetups with, you know, Noel. And yeah, it's connections, and not expecting when you meet someone new, you shouldn't expect that person to be a client straight away. No. It's sort of, there's some people that, you know, I might have friendship with or relationships with, and I never go into it just sell. I let them know what I do, and I showcase my work. Yeah. And it's by doing that is then actually makes a natural progress. Because if they turn around and be like, oh, you like one thing I sort of normally do is I try to ask people what their job is first.
And then they ask you back.
And then they ask you, because when they're asking, if I'm just tell, hi, I'm a video this, yeah, okay, you do that, you're showing off. But if they're asking the question, they're doing it even subconsciously. If I'd say, oh, like, Robert, what do you do? You'll tell me. Then you want to return and say, oh, what do you do? Oh, well, actually, you know, I'm a videographer, content creator. You know, I make, you know, I take stuff from concept and make an end product. Oh, that's really, really cool. Funny you should mention that. I've got a business where, you know, I need some video content. When they're talking to you about it, it's reversed. Like, they're listening. It's not. Whereas if it was just, oh, hi, Robert. Yeah, my name's Reece. I do this, and this. You're like, oh, cool, man.
See you later.
And not just that, when meeting someone and me asking them first, like, as you can probably tell from this, I love to talk. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. So if you first time meeting someone, if you can get them, even someone big, like I've had it before, someone will say, oh, like, hi, hi, I'm Reece. Nice to meet you. I know exactly who they are. Like, but by doing that, and this is what I say about putting people on a pedestal, it's like never fangirling like someone big or, you know, someone with a lot of status, is because if you put them on that level, oh, hi, I'm Reece. Like, what's your name? Like, what do you do? Yeah. And it's like, they love that, because it's like you're on the same level with them. Yeah. And the mutual respect that they have is unreal. Where I've seen some people go like, let's say it's a singer, they'll be like, oh my God, I love your stuff. Like, oh, it's amazing. Oh, we should work on a song together. They ain't listening. You just, so then you're like almost a fan.
You blend into the noise, don't you, that they get every single day?
Yeah, exactly. You just blend into the noise, where if you can get on a level playing field with them, and just remember, everyone's just a human at the end, we're all the same. You know, some people have just made the right decisions that have taken them further. So, yeah, it's I forgot what the original question was, because I keep going on tangents. I'm sorry. It's been so long since I've done one of these chats, but
yeah, no, we were talking about like big names, and I hope that when you did the parties for Gymshark, you said, don't pay me, just give me a bit of stock in Gymshark. Absolutely, you know, onto a winner.
I had done. Oh my God. Can you, mate, if I was in a position now, I would, Jesus. But yeah, it's
you've been making a video how I became a Gymshark millionaire on your YouTube channel or something like that.
Imagine. Oh my God. That would have been a very smart move. But
Yeah, live and learn, eh?
but no, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down. It's time and connections, and just constantly building your network. And you never know where a job's going to come from. I had a job for the official charts company when I was just starting to sort of get some traction being self-employed. And I said to them, I was like, this come out the blue, and I was like, I'm just curious, like, how did you find out about me? She was like, oh, my husband was the lighting jock from when I did the 50 at the venues when I did the £50 working at JD at 3 years prior to that. And that just showed being kind to everyone, keeping in contact, just comment on their odd stuff on Instagram or Facebook, keeping relevant just there. When his wife in general conversation said, oh, yeah, we're looking for a videographer, he's like, oh, I know a guy. Like,
yeah, I think people kind of like underestimate the trust element, because it's, you could see a videographer or a photographer on Instagram and think they're amazing, but if you know someone and you think, yeah, they're good, and I just trust them, that's like worth its weight in gold, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like, people buy people. And if you've got, as we mentioned earlier, word of mouth is the biggest marketing tool you can have. If you've got someone who's already singing your praises, you're halfway there. Like, if anything,
100%.
you're probably more, the only real determination then, which comes down to, is the price. And even then, because their friends or family have said, no, use him, I trust him, you're going to use him, because you don't want to, you're thinking, well, maybe it's a bit more money than thingy. All right, it's another £200 more. But you know what? If the family and my friends have used him and they trust him and he's done a good job, then, I can do it as well. It's about how you, obviously, like, if you respect your family and your friends, judge a character. So, as you said, it definitely comes into play. That's why you should always be as nice to as many people as possible, because you never know the connections it's going to have in the future. Like, you just never know.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, I completely agree with you about the word of mouth thing. It's just, like you say, it's worth its weight in gold. So for you, because you're quite active on social media, I'm not. So I'm almost asking you, because I need you to convince me I should push my Instagram more, I should push my Facebook more. Where does that kind of fit in for you, if word of mouth is the best form of marketing?
It's an interesting one, especially coming from someone who, at the minute, I have very fallen out with social media, if I'm being honest. I just don't have much drive for it at the minute. Prime example, I put up some awesome work this morning, and 2-3 hours later, it's still really underperforming in terms of engagement. But I say that, but coming from someone who, I've had a lot of clients come through Instagram, like an awful lot of clients, and I think I realized when I went for a stage of just post everything, just post every bit of work you do, because that might be, as you mentioned, it was my video that happened to encourage you to, you never know what video, and Gary Vee's been talking about this loads recently, is that how something is received by the audience, it's a perspective is totally individual to each individual person. So what the videos I used to think was average used to absolutely fly on socials. Like, you never know how it's going to be received until it's out there. So the best bet is just put everything out there, because that might be the video that then encourages someone to message you and come forward and be like, hey, look, we want this sort of video done. We really loved what you did in this. Maybe they only love 5 seconds of the video, but they're like, yeah, we really loved what you did in at the beginning of this video. We're wondering if you could do something like that for us.
That's enough.
Like, and I think just put out, as much work as you can. And I think just that, really, like, if you do a job, no matter how big or small, just put it out. If you're on a job, I do it now. I need to put a lot more content out, but the content, I've captured the content. It's just putting it out. Like, I have BTS on every shoot, whether it's on my phone or I hire someone in, I get the stills and the pictures, and, even if my camera's set out, by me constantly doing that has now actually led me on to having, I guess, like a semi sort of a sponsorship deal, actually, with a product line. So by doing that and showing the but if I hadn't kept putting them videos out, then the company wouldn't have been, willing to invest and give me that equipment to do that. So I think it's just, you've got, especially when you're in them early stages and you're building out. And I mean, to be honest, even now, like, I think I've been thinking recently, I should share a lot more of my work, because I don't share as much, and I'm getting a lot of the same work. So I remember when I wanted to transition to like different types of content, I started posting more content around that, and that brought in more types of that content. So you know, if you put out the type of content you want, then you should get that interest back. It will take time. I'm not saying you're going to go put one video out and it's going to absolutely bang and you get 5 clients off the back of it. But it might be you put a video out, and then like I had it with a New Year's Eve one I did for MK. I had like 2 or 3 clients come back to me and they're like, yeah, we really, really like want you to like do this for us, like, you know, get involved with video and all this. Like that video was insane. Turns out they'd been watching me for ages, but that was the pushing point. That video was the push over the line. And if I hadn't put that video out and just shared it to my story, you know, all right, they might have seen it, but there's also a good probability they wouldn't. So
it's another touch point, isn't it, with that client? They say it takes a certain amount of touch points. Is it anything to do with the book in the background, Show Your Work, Austin Kleon?
Do you know what? This is going to be very, very embarrassing. I've read about 3 pages of it.
I was going to ask you what your favourite one was, and so we'll cut that question out.
No, but keep it in. Honestly, it's no. This is a thing. Like I've had it, and one of my housemates' girlfriends has read all of them. Like they're a quick read. I just don't really read. I mean, I've gone through some of it. I was taking it on flights, and I was like penciling out bits and pieces, but it's on my list to get through, and I keep them there knowing that I will eventually get to them.
Well, the title's enough, isn't it? The title's enough to just let you know, show your work. That's pretty much the book anyway, so you could read it on the front cover.
And even like the Still Like an Artist, it's not saying, that essentially says that no idea is original. No. But the best thing to take out is don't steal obviously directly, but take from it and then, influence. Take influence from it, or you know, like how you've done like all like your calyx thing behind you. It's like, oh, awesome. Like I really like how you put like plant pot, camera lens, and then like your helmet down in the bottom corner. Like that's really, really cool. And it's, you know, I might be like, oh, you know what, I want to do something like that, but I'm going to do it a bit differently, like 2 different levels. Or don't be scared to take influence, I think.
I might have to show my Zoom screen because this screen isn't seeing. And you said I can see your helmet in the bottom corner. People are going to ask all sorts of questions, so I'll put it.
Is it a motorcycle helmet or a racing helmet?
Maybe I'll just keep that a secret, and people will guess. Post in the comments down below what you think it might be.
Yeah. Well, I just went X-rated for 30 seconds.
I was going to ask you about gear because I noticed recently that you switched to the Z-Cam, Z-Cam, however you want to say it. Firstly, I want to ask why the Z-Cam, and then as a business owner, how do you make that decision to upgrade? Because every videographer that I know is looking at an Uber camera right now. It's just the done thing. So, you know, why did you choose a Z-Cam, and then, you know, how did you make that decision as a business?
This is a really, really interesting question. So the Z-Cam I went to, I've been watching Z-Cam for probably, I've had the camera nearly 9 months. I've been watching them probably nearly 2 years. I can't remember how I stumbled across them. I think I found it on YouTube or something. I was looking at like cinema cameras, and this is when I had the Sony A7S Mark II, and I think it was the summer of 2019. I was just looking to sort of step it up a bit, and I was going to buy it then. I was going to buy like the E2 back then. It was very, very early days. I think the camera had been out maybe a year, 6 months, and just kept watching. Nearly pulled the trigger one time, and then I was learning about, you know, it's micro four thirds, and I've got to do this, and was all just a bit confusing, and I never really got around to it. But I was always watching, and they have anyone who is part of it, Z-Cam have a Facebook group, which is like all the CEOs are in it, all the technicians are in it. So if you ever have any questions, like people put stuff in there daily, and I must have been in on this group. I think it must be nearly 20,000 now people in it, and I've been in since like the 5,000 days. Wow! So I was always watching, and then obviously at the end of 2019, I still had the Sony, and I was going to get it for the summer of 2020. Then of course COVID happened, and I then moved to London during COVID, and I'd applied for the bounce back loan, and the bounce back loan eventually cleared, and I was like, I'm going to get the Z-Cam. Like just used me moving to London as a time to sort of step up. And I actually know it was before it was during I think the first lockdown. They announced the Z2 Zcam E2 M4. Now the
Yeah.
M4 is essentially the same as the E2, but was part of their new flagship range. And it basically just didn't have a sync option, but it was £400-500 cheaper. I was like, wait, so I can get a cinema camera that does 4K, no crop, like 120 frames per second, it even goes up to 160 frames now. That's what I really wanted. That was a selling point for the Sony. Like I wanted to go 4K from 1080, but I still wanted to have my high frame rates because of it's just fun having high frame rates. You can, slow motion's been a big part of my sort of content. So yeah, I just saw the Z2 M4 come out. I remember I put a pre-order in. I cancelled the pre-order. So I was like, no, it's not the right time. And then I moved to London, and I don't buy new gear that often. I really don't. I'm really tight with my money when it comes to new gear. When I say I researched this damn camera, oh my God, I watched every
like
comparison.
a dossier on it.
Yeah, well, when it first came out, I was thinking I'll buy it and I'll just become like the YouTube guy for the Z2 camera, like M4. Cool, that never happened. But, even still, there's hardly any videos on it.
No.
And the stuff I was seeing was insane. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to bite the bullet. Bought it off CVP. It come from, and the kicker was I had a few jobs come in that were like big jobs. Was the Maura Higgins and Primark commercial. There was some other, it wasn't music video stuff, but just some bigger projects. And I was like, if I'm going to hire a better camera out anyway, now's the time to just get the camera. And you know what? If it ain't for me, I'll resell it. It ain't the end of the world. It's so new. The most I'm going to lose is £200-300.
And you would have paid that to hire it anyway, probably.
Exactly, yeah. So did it, but realised how modular the thing is, and you got to build it out. And yes, it takes time, but I think it made me fall back in love with filmmaking. Really, sort of before that, I'm a COVID. I just got so fed up, man. I was so lazy with my Sony auto ISO, like the S-Log, my white balance would sometimes be off. And when now you can't do that with this camera. I mean, you can, but it's, you've got to dial it in. And I think it made me really step up my level and step up my game. And it's a camera, I still use it on a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, the file sizes are massive and it absolutely destroys. I've got a good spec PC and it even destroys that. But it's good. And it's, it just sort of made me go for it. I never really merged to the Black Magic sort of side of things. I did a little bit of research in it, but it just never. I think I was so fixated on the Zcam because I just seen, and the group, like that Facebook group, has saved me so many times, and it's so interesting because you see other people's work and what they're getting out of the camera. And it's one of them things like you own a camera, and I'm still like pushing it. I'm not even pushing it to its limits yet, and it's cool. And like the whole rig for like under £2,000, like
wow.
I mean, like,
it was that cheap.
Yeah, literally. I think did I have it when the Sony A7S was announced? I don't think the Sony. I think I was waiting for the Sony A7S III to see what that.
So was everyone for like years.
Yeah, and then when that price point come in at like nearly £4,000, I was like, no, I can buy 2 Zcams for that, and it's like not necessarily a better quality of image, but it's cinema quality.
Yeah.
So I just took the plunge and.
Oh, nice.
And it's just one of them.
I saw it on
the second half of your question. I'm sorry, man.
I was going to say what you kind of covered it in that, like the business decision behind buying a new camera, because like I hate it when people say, oh, that's X amount of my day rate, because no, it's not. Like you need to pay tax. You've got rates and things like that, and like as you know, it's half the picture. Lighting, audio is most of it, but it is a toy. But I'm surprised you were still filming in like 1080 in 2019. Like most people would moved on to 4K, but I think that shows how good your work was, because it's not really about that, is it? It's the shot, it's the way you tell your story and stuff like that. But I was just curious to see, as a business owner, because I want a new camera now. I've got a GH5. It produces like a great image, and I'm still in that phase where I'm trying to max out the best image from the GH5. And until I get to that point, that's when I'll upgrade. And is that the same for you, or is it just, you know, were clients demanding a 4K image? What made you ultimately make that decision?
Yeah, so it was partly the personal decision because I wanted to step into 4K, and um, I wanted to just, in general, I felt a lot of people that were at my level within the scene were now starting to move to cinema camera. So part of it was sort of peer pressure, and part of it was because I was shooting a lot more like not commercial content, but daytime content. And I was really struggling with S-Log, especially the grading, the skin tones, and just wanted something different. I think when it comes to your business as, an expense, when's the right time? I think always exhaust the cameras as much that you have as much as you can. I mean, this is on a A7S Mark One. I haven't got rid of it because it's a great extra camera to have. The A7S2 I still have, and there will be jobs there are jobs I have taken the A7S2 on because it is still such a great camera, because the low light is insane. And there's some jobs that are quick fire stuff that don't require the Z cam. The Z cam, I need a good 5-10 minutes to set up at the end, at the beginning and the end. Yeah. So I think people shouldn't get so hung up on gear talk. Like, client ain't got a clue really what you're shooting on. Like, we had James Matthews is for some who may know him, some may not, great for like videographer, like cinematographer. And he shot on a nifty 50 for years, like big client projects on like a nifty 50, like,
and an 18 to 22 as well, wasn't it? Like variable aperture.
And it's, you just, I think people sort of, I'm trying to make it overestimate like what you actually need, like in order to do the job correctly. And sometimes people maybe focus too much on that rather than actually focusing on the story and the content itself. That's one thing I learned off James. I've learned a lot off James, to be fair. Like, I have a lot of time for him because he taught me a lot of stuff, that the story is always the first thing. Story is most important. Doesn't matter what you're making. If there's no story to it, it's dead in the water. And I've seen some amazing projects by people and amazing visuals. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But what's the story?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point? Like, even with I guess my nightlife videos were a bit different, but I always tried to add a little bit of not necessarily a storyline in, but a progression. So you have like people walking into the venue, big cinematic build up. On the drop, you've got the big drop, with all the wow moments. And then at the end, you've got the slower confetti, like emotional bit. So you're taking them on this sort of journey.
Natural ride,
or I could just go straight in with the boom. And if it was a mixture, it would, it probably wouldn't hit as well. And I think, that was one thing I picked up. But yeah, going back to the gear, I think there's a lot of peer pressure around, or who's got this gear, who's got that. It's like, it's awesome, but a lot of people are probably buying this stuff and then still shooting in auto. So, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with some things in auto. I've used auto ISO a lot. If I'm doing documentary stuff, I will use auto white balance because 9 times out of 10, it gets it right, or it gets it within the margin that I can change the color grade in post and it's not totally whack or out there.
Yeah.
But like, people say to me, what camera should I buy? I'm like, oh, I've been looking at this camera that's $3,000. I'm like, why don't you just go buy a secondhand A7S Mark II? That will teach you everything you need to know about it. You've got more than enough frame rates, and then spend some money on some good lenses, like on the Sigma Art lenses. That alone will set you miles ahead. The quality of image is going to be great. I think people like the A7S Mark II is 5 years old now, like it's 5 or 6 years old. It's still a great camera. Like, it's a fantastic camera. Even I remember I had my first or second camera was a Canon 500D or 550D, like the T2i, like the typical videographer camera. We all have Magic Lantern on it. When I say I rinsed that, I still have the camera. It's here. It's this one here. Shit. It's literally this little camera here. That little camera, I pushed to its limit. Like, I'm talking crank the ISO. I was putting like noise stuff on it, but I was still shooting like probably like £300-400 videos on that. Like, I've done some awesome work on that little camera, like nifty 50s, like, and you get the most out of the camera. And I only upgraded to the A7S like my the one when like I needed to.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
yeah, it's like you don't like I tend to upgrade my gear when I feel like I've exhausted the previous camera so much.
Yeah,
You know, that I've really
100%.
run it into the ground. I'm getting the most out of it, and I need that little bit extra.
Yeah. And by that point, you would hope you've had that many jobs that you just kind of saved the money for the new camera anyway. But
Yeah, it's sort of I mean so like the money situation is I mean just put little bits aside, and you know, even lens. I remember camera lenses. I'll look for ages, man. I was just like, oh, do I get the 50 mil? Oh, don't I get the 50? Do I get the 50 mil? Or don't I get the 50 mil? Watching so many examples and then realizing that none of them examples actually make any difference because the content I'm shooting is so like it's different to every single person, and the best way is just to like hire it, get it, you know, test it. Luckily now you can hire lenses for probably like 30, 40 quid a day, you know.
No
Even
brainer.
cameras, you know, through Fat Llama, you can get cameras for so cheap.
I'm renting out a lens this weekend on Fat Llama, so you can make money from it as well.
I mean, one thing that people overlook is don't be scared to buy secondhand. I've got over on my shelf over there is a Canon. I wanted to photo a camera for stills. Just saying, I love the Canons for stills. I always have. I needed something a bit more modern. My mate was selling his Canon 6D. Did the research. Great camera. It must have like 200,000 shutter actuations because he was a nightlife photographer. And the button's fallen off. But you know what? Still does a banging good image. Like, I've taken it on holiday with me and the boys. Like, it's such a good camera. Like, I love it. The battery life. I remember a bit embarrassing story. I took it to Miami and I left the charger at home.
Oh, no.
And I'm in Miami for a week and it's on 3 bars out of 4. I made it last the entire 4-day trip.
Bloody hell. Like, was you like, snap off, snap
off?
Yeah,
literally snap on, off, snap on, off. But got like exactly what I needed. And like just exhausting the cameras, like, you know.
100%. I mean, all my photos are still on a Canon 5D Mark III. Full frame.
Great camera. Fantastic camera.
I bought that second hand. I've got 7200, 2470, 1635, all bought them second hand. And at the end of the day, like I sent some photos over to a client and they're like, oh, they're sick photos. But they would never even know that camera's, I think it was like, however it was. And you spoke about Magic Lantern. I put that on it, got like the raw recording, like they do 5.7K now on the, and like, if that's not good enough for you, then what is?
Like you can make films just with your iPhone. Like 100%. you can make, or whatever phone you've got, you can make so much cool content. And it's like the essentially the barriers are now removed. So if you can't make, if you're blaming the equipment still, then you're blaming the wrong thing. Like it's just yourself. Like you can I've created insane stuff just with the iPhone. Like if we're on tour going for an airport, I don't get my camera out, just record everything on this, put it in portrait mode and use it. There's apps you can get which lets you manually control the settings of the camera so it's not auto changing. Like I've done some awesome stuff on this phone, man. Like you can't, it's all, you can't always blame the gear, but
a bad workman always blames his tools, as they say.
Exactly. And you know, you can have all the gear and no idea. So
two great bits of knowledge to leave it on, I think. So I'm conscious of your time, so thank you so much. My only last question is, who do you think that I should interview next that maybe you know?
James Matthews Media.
Okay, I'm going to ask for the hookup on that one.
Yeah, I'll try to hook you up, man. He's a busy guy, but he really brings a lot of value to the table. I've learned a lot from James over the years, man. So I would say James Matthews Media. Hopefully he'll be up for it. I'll try to work some magic. But no, he's a cool guy, man. He's got a ton of knowledge. So
100%. Same as yourself. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy as well. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me, man. I've enjoyed doing this, man. Let's do another one at some point as well. It's good fun, man.
So guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. Head over and check out EV Pro and I will see you next week.